period. That's the best way to build your network. If you aren't playing a gig and someone offers it to you, say yes. It doesn't matter if it's for $5. It doesn't matter if it's 5 hours away. It doesn't matter if it's for 5 people in the audience. If you can get out there and say yes to everything until you get so busy that you have to say no, that's a way for you to build your network. And also understanding that probably 80% of the gigs that you say yes to aren't going to do anything for you. But there might be that 20% chance that someone in the audience, maybe a side person in the band, maybe somebody somewhere makes some connection for you so you can get to that next gig and that next level. So the number 2 thing that I would tell any musician coming into Nashville is to know your material. And I once heard another musician ask, what's the material I need to know to play on Broadway? And for those who don't know, Broadway is a main strip downtown that has about 60 stages with 4 to 5 musicians playing at any one time during the day. So if you're trying to break into that Broadway scene, which is a good feeder into other scenes in town, you really need to know your material. And I heard one musician say, you need to know every song that ever was recorded, every song that has been recorded recently, and every song that will be recorded. And that's a good starting point. And that's kind of in jest, but that really, there is some truth to that, and that there's a broad spectrum of music you really need to know, but you really, really need to know some country. That's a great starting place. And if you don't, I put a little playlist here. That's something I listen to pretty much when I wasn't playing, when I was doing the dishes. I was always listening to that. If I was out walking the dog, I was listening to the material, getting inside of it. So you really have to know your material. So the number 3 thing is to, regardless of what instrument you're playing, know the count off, know the metronome marking, and know the ending. So the details, those are about 5% of the details, but if you fudge just one of those, that can really just make the whole song fall apart. So number 4 is social media matters, kind of. And it matters in the way that if you're responding to an ad online, say something like Craigslist or a Facebook ad, someone looking for a musician to fill in for a gig, and that happens quite frequently here. You need to have some kind of online resume that shows you playing. It doesn't need to be super top of the line, but if you have a few videos that demonstrate that you can play, that gets your foot in the door. Now, once your foot's in the door, you really need to play on that gig. But you're never going to get to that point unless you have something online. So invest some time into an Instagram page, a YouTube channel. And also, if you're getting gigs in town, film at least 1 or 2 songs so that you can put that up on your page so it appears like you're busy and so people know that you can play. So this is number 5, and number 5 is learn how to chart. Both learn how to write out Nashville Number System charts for yourself, learn how to read other people's charts, and also learn how to really absorb a large amount of material very quickly. So I always take an iPad on a gig with me, so I have about 5,000 songs that I've charted out or taken from other people and can quickly refer to. They're going to have BPM, it's going to have the count off, it's going to have the ending, and maybe something like feel, and then also the chords. And there's so many songs. And so if you have those charts, it makes it really helpful. Also, be prepared to totally forget about those charts and keep your eyes and ears open instead of buried into a chart. Number 6 is the best way to get a gig is to give a gig. Now, if you can make friends with somebody else who plays the same instrument as you and you refer them to a gig, of course they're going to call you to sub or maybe return the favor. Also, if you're on a gig and they say, hey, we need, say you're a drummer and they need a guitar player, call up one of your guitarist friends. If you can start giving people other opportunities, they will most likely return the favor. So number 7 is to be prepared to be humbled, be prepared to be fired maybe at some points. It happens to everybody here. And you have to have the self-confidence to have an embarrassing moment or two, or to be on stage and kind of mess up a song and be able to roll with it, both on that gig and then moving forward. So a quick story, when I first got to town, I sat in with a friend of mine. He said I could come in, sit in, and play on his gig. And I was pretty confident because, I have a good ear and I've listened to a lot of music in my life, a lot of different styles. And they called a song, which I didn't know, but I said, you know what? I can roll with it. And he put up a chart for it. Couldn't exactly read the chart, but I wasn't too worried about it because I have a good ear. And what I thought was good ear, but there's some things you can't fake. And it was a song that had a lot of start stops, signature drum parts. It also just had some weird time signatures, and I definitely messed up that song. And I probably had never been more embarrassed in my musical life. And from that moment, I said, okay, I'm never going to be ill prepared for a gig again. That's when I said, all right, I got to get serious and learn this material inside and out. So there's going to be a moment, maybe it won't be you sitting in. Maybe you're on a gig and maybe you don't do as good of a job as they wanted to, or maybe you're just not the right fit. But sooner or later, you're going to taste that humble pie, and that's part of the process. Be willing to get uncomfortable and be willing to bounce back from it. I noticed in Nashville, a lot of people want to play songs a few clicks faster live, and that may be right or may be wrong. But the point is, if everybody in the band is feeling it a little bit faster, go with that. So think about when you're on the gig, know the songs inside and out, then be prepared to totally abandon that. I see a lot of people who are really rigid and saying, no, the song was recorded at this tempo, let's play it here. And they don't work as much because they seem like they're difficult to work with. I like to say, okay, here's the tempo and that's the jumping off point. If people want to play it faster, I roll with it. So think about being flexible. So I would say the ninth thing would be to prepare for every gig like it's a Super Bowl. Even if it's one of those gigs that you know is far away or it's not paying you a lot of money, something you're not excited about, don't phone it in, even if the other people are phoning it in. But if you show up to every gig prepared, that's a great way to set yourself up to get exposed to somebody who might hire you for a gig. So I've heard so many stories in town of somebody get called to sub a gig last minute, and that led to other gigs because they showed up and they took it very seriously. They took out their important gear and they came ready to rock. They weren't going to half-ass it. So show up to every gig, even if other people are half-assing it, play it like it's the last time you're going to play. And even if no one's there, if you start developing these habits, they eventually pay off. Number 10 is that nobody really gives a shit about gear. Now, if you have nice gear, great. But don't fall into the trap thinking that you need the nicest, highest top-end stuff. I've played in town my first year. I played on a $500 student drum kit. I had some heads on it and it sounded nice and it worked for the gig. Really think about investing your money into things that matter. Like if you don't have an iPad, have that for charts. If you don't have a good in-ear monitor setup, maybe have some good in-ear monitors, maybe have a good sub mixer. But nobody gives a shit if you have the nicest guitar, the nicest drum set. Just have things that function to get you there. Okay, once you get up to those bigger levels, maybe it will matter, but a lot of times you're playing either on some backline gear, you're in a studio, they have an amp or they have a set for you. Really invest in the things that matter. Don't think that gear is going to make you better. What really makes you better is the skills behind it.